We're excited about this session. We're going to be talking about the AI powered path to CX excellence. And to do that, we brought on Stephen, our friend Stephen from Digital Genius. Stephen, thanks for joining. How are you?
Hi, Gabe. Thanks for letting us be a part of this.
Yeah, I think this will be fun. You guys have brought, I think, a lot to the market and a fun talk track around AI. And so excited to dive in today. Before we do that, though, maybe just take a minute, tell us a little about yourself and what you guys do over there at Digital Genius.
Absolutely. So I'm Steve, head of partnerships, Digital Genius. And yeah, we're essentially customer service, AI, and automation for some of the world's biggest e-commerce and retail brands like Taylor Swift and Hoka and brands like that.
Love it. Love it. Yeah, as I said, you guys have done some fun stuff in the space. And excited to hear your take on that. I mean, it's obviously the talk of the town is this two-letter word AI. So maybe you'll shed some light on us today. So I think one of the people as I jump in, some of the people as I jump in, Stephen, they're debating this idea is what is the balance between humans and automation in this constantly evolving customer landscape that we're in? How do you start to think about that as you kind of work with different brands?
Yeah, and I think that is becoming increasingly important.
It's a
I
tough
think
one.
we've kind of accepted AI is here now. Like it's not a new topic anymore. We've all kind of discussed AI, and I think brands are now really starting to be concerned with like what should AI be doing, what should humans be doing, since we're going to accept that they both have to exist alongside each other.
Yeah.
Um, but we actually own the trademark in the UK for human plus AI,
No way. Oh
which
my
is yeah,
goodness.
which is like quite funny, I think, as an AI company. Like people don't usually expect us to own something with the word human in it, but yeah, I think we definitely see that humans are always going to be an important part of the customer journey. And the customer experience that you offer can make or break a brand, and anyone who's involved in customer facing activity is responsible for the brand experience.
Yeah, yeah, which I think is so important to find that balance, right? I think this idea that we're moving completely away from humans or something is probably a little ridiculous at this point. Maybe not forever. I don't, I don't know, but I choose to live in the now versus in 100 years from now, and so I do think finding that balance is pretty important. How do you feel like leaders can successfully introduce AI into their teams in a way that feels kind of empowering rather than intimidating, ensuring they see this tool as something that they can kind of help them rather than just eliminate, eliminate, eliminate.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think that's obviously a huge topic for a lot of our clients, like especially where they have big teams. I think ultimately making sure everyone's aligned with the idea that it's about creating the best customer experience. It's not usually a cost reduction exercise for any of our clients, for
Yeah.
example. It's usually an exercise in improving CX. And about two-thirds of your customers will cut ties with you if they have one bad experience. They just need one poor customer experience, according to Qualtrics.
Crazy. That's so
So
crazy.
yeah, I think like
But
you
it's
kind of
true. I mean, I say it's crazy, but then I'm like, but I think I do that as well. So, yeah.
100%. Yeah, I've definitely done it, and we see so like we work with two businesses that handle the same thing differently. Pure Pet Food is a dog food subscription brand
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
UK, and Charles Tyrwhitt are like a well-known UK high street retailer. They sell like formal wear. Um, and so they handle the same thing in like two opposite ways. So with a dog food subscription brand, one thing you have to be very, very sensitive to is when the dog passes away. And so usually you would expect that to be the point that you would have a human being there for like empathy, right? Like you want to get through to a human. What Pure Pet Food found was that the worst thing they could do is someone cancels their subscription because their dog has died, and then you send them another load of dog food, right? Like that's the worst thing that can happen. So
Yeah.
they would rather automate that very sensitive subject because they would rather have it done quickly, effectively, like just get it cancelled, and then the empathy can be sprinkled in maybe with some generative AI or something. But ultimately, the human touch is less valuable in that scenario than the speed. Like it just needs to be fast. Whereas Charles Tyrwhitt handle this same like kind of sensitive subject thing with funerals and weddings. So they sell like fancy shirts, and they'll often get where is my order inquiries around
Sure. Sure. Yeah.
or like shirts for special occasions. They choose to make sure that goes to a human. because ultimately the action that you take as a human agent isn't going to move the parcel along any quicker. It's not going to make the shirt get there. So they want to make sure that the customers feel like they're reaching a human being, that they are receiving, yeah, I guess, empathy from the brand.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I think that that's kind of how we've seen people introducing AI to specific scenarios. I think that's how they're making it clear to their teams that this isn't
Yeah.
uh, a, a broad stroke random exercise. We're selecting specific use cases
Yeah.
where we know that the customer needs a quick, consistent answer versus when we want our human agents interacting with our customers.
I think that's right. I appreciate that. That's a great example of trying to kind of navigate that human and automation with a use case that seems very relevant. Yeah, I can imagine if you mess up on that one, people get a little bit frustrated. So I think a lot of people are asking themselves, when it comes to improving CX with AI, I'm curious if there's one thing that comes to mind that you think a brand could focus on to improve their overall CX. Where do you go with that one?
I think the one major thing, as I say, I think most people are accepting now that AI and humans are both here to stay. Uh,
Yeah,
and in that case, I think the kind of unique insight that we try to implement with our clients is that customer service agents don't just answer questions, right? They do
yeah,
stuff. They spend their days in 15, 20 different tools at any given time. And
yeah.
our clients are on running, for example, they've been able to see some pretty cool stuff. They reduced their wait time by 93%
Wow,
as a result of
wow.
implementing automation and AI, and this has allowed them to handle 250% more
Yeah,
customer service conversations with only
yeah.
10% more people. And
Right.
the reason they've been able to do this so effectively is because they've given their automation access to so much information, so many other tools, so many actions that it can take in their shipping carrier portal or their subscriptions portal or, whether it's their email marketing or whatever it is, like all these
Yes.
different tools that you'd expect a human agent to be interacting with.
Yep.
Your automation is only going to be as good as the data that you allow it to access. And I think that's the one thing I would advise any brands that are looking to improve their CX is making sure that this data flow is available to humans and your automation.
Yeah, that's so important because yeah, you're only as good as the data you have, and actually the same is true for an AI agent as it is for a regular agent. And so the more you can kind of open up that data flow, I think the term you use that makes a lot of sense. And I know that's one of the reasons some of the things customer and digital genius are trying to do together has been a little bit more effective. I like that. You work with a lot of brands. Is there a few brands that come to mind when you think of people who are doing this a little better than others, or starting to get this CS experience to kind of the next level?
Yeah, I think in terms of great customer experience, I think there are a couple of brands that come to mind. I think one would be Bella and Duke, for example.
Okay.
Bella and Duke are they're one of our clients again, obviously. That's why they come to mind. Yeah, they're a pet food subscription brand again. They're another dog food subscription brand, and they've managed to save 30% of their cancelled subscriptions. But they've managed to do this by picking very specific types of responses to be automatically given depending on the reason for the subscription cancellation. And that's why I think it's an excellent customer experience is that you and I might both have a dog, we might both subscribe to Bella and Duke Pet Food, and then
Yeah.
we might both decide to cancel, but we're going to do it for different reasons. And in order to feel like we're having a personalized experience, it needs to be set up from the get-go to do that. So they see that once they do manage to save someone, and they don't try to save everyone, which I think is very important. They don't try to save every subscription cancellation, but the ones that they do save order again on average three more times.
Oh wow.
So I think the reason I think that's clearly a good customer experience is that people are choosing to continue to buy with them. So
Yeah.
if they were doing it wrong, if they were picking the wrong things to try and save, or they were just trying to save everything, then their average number of repeated orders after that would obviously be a lot lower. So yeah, I think Kevin and Duke are doing a great job.
Yeah. Look, those are great. Those are great stories, great examples. Um, one thing that I feel like a lot of people have asked me recently, maybe you have an opinion on this one, is just is, this obviously it's a little around AI, but people are being bombarded more and more with AI tools or AI vendors or AI things. And I had a CEO that told me the other day that said, maybe I should just wait on the sideline right now. There just feels like there's so many tools out there and so much AI, and I don't know if a lot of them work, and I don't have all the time in the world to deal with, to test every one of these. So he said, I
Mhm.
think I'm going to wait until Gen 2, or wait a little while until, things kind of flush themselves out. I'm just curious how you'd advise people who are wanting to kind of get into AI, but also feeling a little bit of the nervousness of my friend, where it's like, I don't know how to pick them, and what should I be looking for, and are they really working, and I don't have time to try 1,000 of them.
Mhm.
Any advice on kind of getting started with and finding the right AI solutions?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think in terms of getting started, I think you can be very selective. We have some clients, so this is quite similar to luxury brands that we work with, right? Like
Yeah,
they tend to be very hesitant to implement any kind of
or
customer facing
yeah,
automation.
because the personalization, right? Yeah,
Yeah, 100%. Like they see their brand tone as being very important to them, and they want to make sure that they're not promising things that they can't fulfill. And yeah, I think a lot of them actually tend to start with two things. Number one, they'll be very, very selective over the use cases.
yeah.
And there's another, like going back to your previous question about how you introduce it to your team in a way that's less intimidating. Clients like Selfridges, for example, that we work with, they're selling things that are worth like a couple of grand. So like they're very, very, very
Yeah,
concerned with picking the right way and the right things to
definitely.
automate. So yeah, I think that would be one piece of advice is you don't have to automate everything.
Yeah.
But the one of the kind of innovations that's available as a result of AI, I think, is outbound stuff, proactive stuff.
Mm.
Most customer service leaders, if you ask them today, what one thing do you wish your agents were doing more of? It'd be like outbound. It would be reaching out to customers, proactively caring for them, asking them how was that recent order and things like
It
that.
makes such a difference. Yeah, when you go proactive, yeah, that makes a huge difference, right?
It's
Yeah.
huge. And Clarins, for example, use AI pretty much just for that. They don't do an awful lot of reactively automating
Oh,
customer
interesting. Yeah,
problems.
more on the proactive
They
side. Yeah.
pretty much just use the tools for proactive outreach. American consumers in particular care a lot about speed and convenience, and they just want knowledgeable help. They don't really care whether it's coming from a human or a robot or whatever. They just want it to be quick, convenient,
Fun.
and like accurate. Uh, and
Sounds
so yeah,
sounds right. Yes, I agree.
yeah, 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 yeah. I'm glad. Um, yeah, so essentially, using AI for proactive use cases allows you to display this to consumers, right? So
I
you
like
can do
that.
things like let your AI look at your shipping carriers to find out where your orders are. So
Yeah.
people like Clarence and Porto's Bakery, actually, another nice big
Ooh.
US brand.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
hard to stop once you start eating Porto's, but
Yeah, I might have to take a break after this. Yes, I'm feeling hungry. Yeah, that's a good one.
But yes, they use a lot of proactive automation, and what this will basically do is it will look for lost in transit parcels. Obviously, when you're delivering food, it's very important that like it's delivered within the right timelines, that it's refrigerated in the right way, or whatever. So wha- their customers tend to be a lot more forgiving of them when these mistakes happen with their shipping
Got it.
carriers when it's communicated clearly. And their
Yes.
AI allows them to do that in a way that a human being basically never could, where you can follow every single order. And when one of them has been like in transit for more than 3 days or 4 days or 2 days or whatever it is, you can just automatically reach out to that customer and say, hey, it looks like DHL, UPS, USPS, FedEx have
Sure.
lost this parcel. What would you like us to do? Would you like us
Yeah.
to refund you? Should we send you a replacement? Is this donut on a deadline or something? Or what's
Yep.
the how should we go from here? And you just couldn't do that with humans. Yeah.
Yeah, I
A
like
good
that.
example of that is handwritten notes, actually.
Mm.
I saw one recently on LinkedIn, someone that's totally unrelated to one of our clients. It's health. They're like a sport nutrition.
Yeah.
The person's not related to the business at all, but he posted a picture of a handwritten note he had received from health. So this guy has no way of knowing this, but I know that health have tens of thousands of conversations every single month. Like, there's no way for them to just like take a couple of hours out of their day and just like easily write a note unless a huge percentage of those conversations are already being automatically handled.
Mm,
I think
yeah,
that kind of proactive personal touch, reaching out with something that's unexpected to surprise and delight your customers,
yeah, yeah.
that's the best way to view introducing AI to your
Huh,
journey, in my opinion,
huh,
is instead of like, how can I get rid of my team? Most people are viewing it from how can I free up time for my team to do
yeah.
things that are more valuable.
I love that reframing. That's a great example of, yeah, that the personalized note. You're right. You can only do that if you've got some time on your hands, and maybe some of those mundane tasks are being replaced. I also think proactive. I mean, that's something I don't know if many companies have ever mastered. I've been hearing about it in service for a long time, but I think there's a if you can reach that pinnacle of where you're really doing proactive support, solving the problem before it even arises, type of thing. I mean,
Mm.
there's some great aspects there that I think you're right on. Stephen, it's been fun to chat. I want to kind of move to wrap up here, but I'm curious if we hit a lot of different items, a lot of different stories. Appreciate the stories and examples,
Yeah.
but a lot of people tuning in today, sometimes feeling alone, feeling overwhelmed, a lot going on in CX. Anything you'd just kind of leave the audience with as we break today?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I probably haven't done an awful lot to help you from not feeling overwhelmed. That there's a lot to think. There is a lot to think about. I mean, it's the entirety of customer experience, right? But yeah, I think the number one thing, I mean, the thing that we view as the reason that our business exists is that when you have a garbage chatbot, it's usually because it's just trying to answer questions.
Yeah,
And your humans aren't just answering questions all day, right? Like your human colleagues are taking actions in various tools, 10, 15, 20 different tools.
yeah,
And so if you're not able to do that automatically, then those conversations will always have to be passed to a human. And if you want to see the results of like 60, 70, 80% of your conversations being handled fully by AI and never reaching a human, you need to be able to integrate that AI into the rest of your workflows. And so that means making conscious decisions with the rest of your tech stack to be
yeah,
stuff that has APIs and has ways for your AI to interact with it. Because if your AI isn't able to interact with your subscriptions platform or whatever, it's always going to be handing those conversations to a human to resolve.
yeah, yeah,
And you lose a lot of the benefit. Like you'll have a great first response time, but you won't have a great full resolution time because it will still have to get handed to a
yeah,
human. You
yeah,
don't even reduce the backlog meaningfully. So yeah, I think that's the one thing I would leave people with is like if you're thinking about implementing AI or if you have already, making sure that it has access to all of your tools that a human would
yeah.
is the easiest way to get real results.
I love it. I think that's great advice as people start that AI journey, which many people are trying to do effectively as we talk. So awesome. Well, again, Stephen, thanks so much for joining. Appreciate the talk track. For the audience, enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks.